Hello everybody, welcome to the next episode of Brightly. Today I'll be talking about your first experiences when you just moved to Brussels. Let's start with the introductions.
Hi, my name is Łukasz. I'm from Poland. I work at the European Council and I've been here for 11 years.
Hi, my name is Sarah Jane and I'm originally from Pennsylvania in the US. And I've been here for about 7-8 months. And I'm a musician / women's rights activist, and I'm currently writing a book here in Brussels.
My name is Philip. I've been in Brussels for almost 8 years. I work as a B2B marketer, and I'm originally from Croatia.
Hello, my name is Ekaterina. I'm from Russia, Moscow. I have been to Brussels already 1.5 years. For now, I'm working as a mom. I have one son, 2 years old, and I will have one more in 2 months. And I'm trying to integrate here in Brussels.
Hello, my name is Jeanette. I'm originally from Berlin in Germany, and I've been living in Brussels for more or less a year now, working in the EU bubble as a European Affairs Manager.
So yeah, Sarah, we want to hear a bit about your first experience when you just moved to Brussels, your first day, your real first day.
Right. Well, I moved to Brussels on October 30th, 2020, which was 3 days before the second lockdown. So my first experience, I arrived, I lived in Berlin prior, and I took the train with my cat, and I arrived all excited. And then once I arrived, I realized there was a bit of a shopping chaos going on, and mind you, I just moved into a new place and I had nothing. So my first few days I spent, quickly buying a toaster and a coffee machine and all of this kind of stuff. But luckily, I had visited Brussels a little bit in the summer prior, and so I got to see, I had a little bit of this glimpse of what Brussels was like, when there was some kind of normalcy. But like I said, I moved here and it was immediately a lockdown.
Yeah, but in your first impression, can you define it like in 1 or 2 words?
It was great. I stepped off of the train and, like I said, I had lots of luggage and my cat with me. So I stepped into a taxi, and the man who was driving the taxi was very, very kind. And, it was a lovely experience. I had good vibes.
Right. What about you, Philip? How was the first day?
So I visited Brussels first time in 2005, so I already had an idea about the city. But in October 2013, I moved here, and I arrived from the airport to the Gare du Midi in the night. So the first feeling was a little bit more oppressive than I was expecting. But I quickly made my way to my apartment that was waiting for me, and I knew where I was coming, basically.
Yeah.
So that didn't scare me.
But what do you mean about oppressive? Did anything hit you like straight away, like something different than back home in Brussels?
So, the Gare du Midi is a very specific place. And it was just late in the night, and kind of I came from Barcelona at the time, so it was a bit colder and a little bit dirtier than there. But I pushed through, and I'm glad I did.
Yeah. What about you, Janet? How was your first day?
Difficult to say what's my first day, because the first time I went to Brussels was in 2015 actually, during a studies trip when I was still in my master's, and there I really got a bad impression about Brussels, because we only were in the EU quarter, and it was in March, it was raining, and you only saw these very fancy but quite cold glass buildings, So this was really the impression I had about Brussels. I didn't know about Excel and this little nice districts and the little coffee shops and this very beautiful architecture. Only over the years, when I visited friends before deciding to move to Brussels, I discovered that it's way more complex. So my very first impression, to be totally honest, was not that good. But then over the years, I discovered that it's actually
it happens very often. People come into Brussels, just visit one place, one district, or only the center, not knowing that there are 19 districts. They are totally different. They have different architecture. They have different centers and totally different atmospheres. So, yes, Philip?
I just wanted to say that's very true. I mean, I always say that Brussels is not a city where you fall. Okay, Brussels is not the city that you fall in love at first sight, but you can discover great things about it. And
Yeah.
I did, yeah.
Yeah, what about you, Lukas? How was the first day?
Yeah, well, I came here on a tourist trip that was about maybe 20 years ago, and I really fell in love with the architecture. I remember we were driving and we couldn't find our way. There was no sat nav back then. We didn't have one, and so we had to ask for directions. We met some nice gypsy people, and they spoke Polish. Somehow, I don't know, and they showed us the way, and I really liked it. And then my first actual day of living here, first day I hated it, because that was about 10 years later, and we came we landed in Charleroi Airport, and then we somehow figured out a way. There was no shuttle, so we took a bus to Charleroi city, and the train station was so filthy, and everything was boarded up. They were doing some maintenance work, and I couldn't find the exit, and it was like, and everybody was like really unhelpful. We're trying to ask some people at information desk, but they were pretty rude. And we got on the train, and I was thinking, wow, okay, this is like Western Europe. This is so disappointing, you know. And it was raining, and it was. So yeah, the first day of living here, not so great. Before that, as a tourist, it was really nice. So.
As a tourist, was nice, but
Yeah.
I see.
So it was like that.
What about you, Kate?
I think like I have been to Brussels before. I moved here. It was 3 years ago in 2018, and actually I never planned to visit Brussels. It was just accidentally because I had a transit flight and I had to stay for a night here. And I think if it's not this, I would never come to Brussels, because for me it was kind of boring city. What do you know about Brussels? It's like the capital of Europe, and I imagined the Brussels like with a lot of buildings, with all these European organizations.
Bureaucratic city.
Yeah. And I didn't know a lot about Brussels, like about Belgium, of course. It's waffles,
So for you,
beer,
it was across the
chocolate.
city. You wanted to go from one destination to another. It was
Yeah.
in the middle,
Yeah.
and that's why you visited Brussels. Otherwise, you would have never been here.
I think so. Maybe one day, just because I have to visit, like just to check I have been there, and that's it. But
One day.
yeah, and my first experience, my first expression was not very nice, because I saw a lot of homeless people on the street, and I saw it was a bit dirty, and I didn't have in my mind that I will move to Brussels.
Yeah. Did you also have the impression that Brussels was dirty and a lot of homeless people here when you just moved here the first day, Sarah, for example?
I think what surprised me was when I saw a lot of trash on the street. I guess I just happened to be here in Brussels the first time when it was trash day. So I was like, oh, there's a lot of trash on the street. But I have to say, I do find the trash system here good. But yeah, you don't know. Maybe sometimes the next day you see like a raccoon or some animal, a fox went through a garbage bag and there's trash on the street. Yeah.
Yeah, when you visit Brussels during the trash day, I guess you would have very bad experience about Brussels.
Yeah.
What kind of experience did you have? Did you think that Brussels was dirty and full of homeless when you just moved here?
I mean, some parts, there are definitely spots where, people without homes are still daily, and I think that's an ongoing problem. But I've also visited other cities, and Brussels is not the only city like that.
So it's not specific about Brussels.
It's not. It's visible, and it's quite actually tough to see that, and it's bad. It's just bad. But I mean, what can you do?
I think it's a question of, I mean, in all the capitals you can see it.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been living in Paris for quite some time and it's way more dramatic than in Brussels. So I wouldn't necessarily attribute or link this problem to Brussels, but it's true that especially as being for German, if you're used to the very efficient trash system of waste separation, then you're a bit shocked because you feel like you're like in Italy. It's a bit chaotic. But at the end, it works out. I mean,
Yes, Sarah?
Yeah, I think I just wanted to say, I think, there's homeless people here, and what you guys were saying, and really there shouldn't be any homeless people in the world, but like in Los Angeles now, this is like the worst I've ever seen. Like that is the worst homeless crisis I've ever seen.
Yeah, you have homeless cities, towns, right? I don't know how you
Skid
call
Row.
them, shanty towns.
When we complain about Brussels, we think it's the worst. But
Of course.
Yeah.
Because that's what we see daily. And there is, Brussels is easy to kind of bash a little bit.
but maybe we complain about it because we want Brussels to become better.
That's true.
Yeah. What about you, Łukasz?
Do I complain because I want to make it better? Or
Yeah?
yeah, I guess I've been living here for a long time. I guess I care. I want to see it. I want to see it nice. I want to see it prettier. I actually like the city over the years. I grew to like it and like it here. Otherwise you're just unhappy.
Yeah.
But yeah, there could be some things that you could improve. And but I agree with you guys. It's every big city has this problem. And
Yeah, because Łukasz, you mentioned that 20 years ago you had a bad experience.
yeah.
Did it change over time?
Yeah, it did. I mean, but I'm not sure if the city became better or I just got used to it.
Yes, Philip?
I'm sure. So the city definitely improved, I would say, in the last 8 years. I mean, just when you look at the improvements around bike lanes, it's really dramatic. And I just stopped driving again, and I'm back on my scooter, and it's a lot easier to get around the city. I mean, cars are still ruling the city, but in that aspect alone, it has improved. In other aspects as well, I think the current government is doing a lot, not just for mobility, but also overall trying to improve, the way it looks, the way it feels, and make it more livable for citizens rather than making it into a car city. I mean, everything revolves around cars.
In which district do you live in Brussels?
Just nearby, near Square Marie-Louis.
Marie-Louis.
Oui.
1,000 Brussels.
Yes, it's still 1,000, yeah.
What about you, Kate? Did your opinion change about Brussels from the first impression you had?
Yeah, I think so, because my life changed in 2018. It was just traveling. Now I live here. I have friends. I have family here, and of course it changes a lot. And I really like the city. Of course, I have some problems with integration. I have to deal with a lot of administrative things still, all the time, actually. And comparing to Moscow, I still feel that I need to learn a lot of things about living in Brussels. But as a city, I changed my mind a lot. Because I see how beautiful is it. I see all the architecture you have in Brussels, and it's really different. You see all these districts that have different characters, different people who lives there, and it's.
If you compare Brussels and Moscow in 2-3 words, how would you define it? Brussels comparing to Moscow.
First, it's very small.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Because Moscow, it's around 12 million people who lives there, and it's the whole country, Belgium. And it's the first word, small and quiet.
Yeah, quiet.
Comparing to Moscow, and I don't know,
No,
cozy.
Something
cheap, probably.
Yes, Sarah?
I just wanted to say,
No?
Yes, Sarah?
Sorry.
I just wanted to say, like we're having these discussions of like, how can we improve Brussels, and I think this is really, really great. What I really like about Brussels is that it really is like the center of the EU, and we have these discussions of like, how can we improve this, and how can we improve this, how can we make Europe a better place. I think this is great. I don't necessarily know that a lot of people have these conversations in other cities. I mean, they exist, of course, but I feel like, this is an ongoing dialogue here, which I really like. How can we live in this world together, in this place together?
And make Brussels great again. So what about you, Jana? Did you change your opinion about Brussels? Did your first impression change?
Definitely. I mean, as I have been saying already, in 2015 it was more or less horrible for me. It was really like the EU district, very anonymous city, grey. Everyone was, well, not unfriendly, but very diplomatic and not warm-hearted. But then when I visited some friends, I really discovered the little sweet districts, and I learned a bit more about the Belgian culture as well. As coming from Germany, you also always think, Belgium, it's a bit like Germany, but no, it isn't. It's way more complex. So this is also a feature that I would like to point out when it comes to Brussels and Belgium, obviously in general. It's really like a melting pot of cultures. So we have on the one hand all these expats coming from all over the world, which we also do have in Berlin, but it's way more concentrated, as it's, you said, Catalonia, really a tiny city, well, compared to Berlin. And on the other hand, you have this Belgian crazy mix of culture between Flemish and Wallonian, and then you have Brussels in the middle. So it's a weird mix, but it's a very interesting one, I think.
Yeah.
Indeed. You really can't say it's boring,
Yeah.
No.
Do you really feel like that Brussels is underrated?
Probably, yeah, but I think that's what I like about it, and that's why I found my home here. There are far more, overexposed cities where technically I could have gone, but I like that about Brussels. It's a bit under the radar.
Would you advise your friends to move to Brussels or visit Brussels as a tourist, for example?
Sure, both. I mean, you can have a good life here for sure. Yeah.
What about you, Lucas?
Would I recommend Brussels as a tourist destination?
And do you also believe that Brussels is underrated?
Yeah, definitely. It is, because people see it only, like you guys been saying, people don't really have any idea about Brussels. There's maybe waffles, beer. I know I didn't. I mean, there's the commissions here, right? But nobody knows all the nice things about it. And so definitely it's underrated. And I too like it that way, because, there's fewer tourists. Probably that keeps the real estate prices reasonable, even though this is changing. And it's like you're living. I feel like if you were to be living in Barcelona or I don't know, London, that kind of puts you on the spot there. You're just with all these people coming and going. Here it's more manageable, I find it. Also the size I like. You can walk to a lot of places, and it's pretty nice. And as a tourist destination, I don't find that it has that much to offer for tourists, but 1 or 2 days, why not?
Yeah, Sarah, you mentioned you lived in Berlin 10 years, right?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Would you believe that Brussels is similar to Berlin in terms of being international?
Yeah, like Berlin is an interesting city that it was like destroyed and then built from the ground up. And I was worried when I came here that there wouldn't be like this liveliness that Berlin has, but I was totally wrong. Like now that everything is opening up again, you go out on a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, and there's people everywhere on the street and laughing, eating, drinking. There's people sitting on green lawns. It's really like young and old, and it's a really, really fun town to be in, I think. And what's funny is just what you guys were saying. When I told my American friends that I was moving to Brussels, they didn't even know where Brussels was. So, but Americans, we don't have geography in school, so
Brussels.
But it is, I wanted to say now is a really good time to be in Brussels. I feel like it's very, very alive, and if you really want to hang out with people after such a long time inside, it has a lot of good stuff happening right now.
Brussels being the human science capital.
It
provides a lot of.
But it is.
Oh yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
That is very important for quality of life. Yeah.
What about you, Kate? Would you advise people to move to Brussels
I
or
already
visit
did.
Brussels as a tourist?
I already do this to my friends in Russia. when we texting to each other. I'm trying to invite people here, like visit me. Of course, I want them to see, to come to see them, and I'm saying a lot of things about Brussels. That actually it's a very nice city, and there is a lot of things to do here in Brussels. It's not like this impression that it's boring city. No.
So we count on you to attract all the Russian tourists.
Yeah, of course.
So what about you, Janet? Brussels, would you recommend it for all
Yeah,
the Germans?
definitely. Definitely. I mean, it's one of the go-to places, I think, for Germans already. I would also advise friends that if they really consider moving here, that would definitely have to purchase rain boots, because
It's
this is
very
something
often.
you shouldn't underestimate, though. But once you kind of deciphered how it's going with the weather, you're good to go, and that's definitely an interesting city to do.
Yeah, the issue, many people they complain that Brussels is a short-term city. People they move here for a few months, either for trainships or for short-term assignments. And some people they feel really sad being here because they make friends and then they all disappear, they are gone, they have to remake friends again and again. Did you ever experience this? Do you think it's a fact in Brussels being here for a few months, 1 year, many years?
I think that's expat life.
Yeah.
I experienced the same thing when I lived in Germany. You know, you have friends and then they leave. I mean, I think what I would hope to try to do is you meet people who are from here and then they're not leaving. So
that's not specific about Brussels. It's also about Berlin, about all the expats.
yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah,
you should meet more locals.
yeah.
Easy. Yes, Philip, you want to say something?
Yeah, I mean, in these 8 years, I've made friends both among expats and among Belgians, so I have some long-term friendships, but I did also lose quite a few people, unfortunately, and yeah, it's just, it sucks. I mean, and you really cannot do that a lot after a few times, so yeah, I tend to have a circle of friends right now, but I don't necessarily make new ones, just because it's kind of, very risky.
What about you, Łukasz? How is your friendships going on in Brussels?
I would say maybe for expats, it's sometimes not so easy to meet Belgian people. I found that people sometimes talk about it, that this two worlds exist.
Yeah, and you, Janet, we just moved here for a year. Was it hard for you to meet Belgians?
Yeah, kind of, especially because I'm working for a German foundation, so all my colleagues are German, which is totally fine, but I was especially hoping to really get to know different type of European cultures and especially also Belgian people. But the good thing is that I have 1 or 2 friends here who are then having friends, Belgian friends, so I kind of connected to these groups. And fortunately I came after the first wave, so I could manage to meet some people. But I also have to say, obviously during lockdown it was quite tough because everyone was hiding inside. So you really had to like push yourself to find still some activities. But as Brussels is a really tiny city, you could always go for a walk. So this was a good thing.
Yeah, so Sarah, going back to Berlin, did you have the same situation? Was it hard to meet Germans there?
Once I have to say I worked with a lot of Germans, and then once I could speak the language, most of my friends were German. Because then I felt this disappointment of, meeting a couple of Americans or expat people and being friends, and then they'd leave after a year or two. So then I just befriended a lot of Germans, and it helped a lot because then I could learn the culture. And I think this is also one thing that's so enriching when you move to a new country or a new city. It's just like learning a new culture. This is what I'm really excited about being here, is that it's just a new place and new things to learn, new people to meet, and just...
So the key to integration is learning the local language.
I think so, yeah. I think that's really important, actually.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Did you have the same feeling, Kate? That it was harder to meet Belgian friends here?
I'm in a better situation because my partner, he's Belgian, and I meet his friends. So for me, it's a bit easier. But yeah, I think it's much easier to meet expats here in Brussels, because when you meet a person, you start to talk and you're asking, are you Belgian? And he or she is saying, no, I'm from somewhere. Yeah. I think it's a big problem to meet locals here.
So yeah, to conclude this conversation, I want to ask you to define me Brussels before, when you just moved here the first day, and now how do you see it? But just like in one sentence. Łukasz, let's start with you.
So when I moved here, rainy, dirty, messy, and uninviting, but in a way relaxed. Now it's still kind of rainy, but I find it's my city now. I feel at home here, and I feel at ease.
Yeah.
It's a nice place.
Sarah?
I try to stay positive in all of my situations. So, I mean, it was, you know, like a lot of places, there's a lot of rain, but there's also a lot of sun. And I find Brussels to be a lovely city with friendly people.
Philip?
Well, Brussels is home for me right now, so I mean, you know.
And before?
It's,
Before?
Sorry?
And how did you feel about Brussels before?
Before I had to adapt for a couple of years, but now it's home, and you know, I take it with all the good and bad.
Yeah, so as you said, you get to love Brussels with time.
Yeah, exactly. It takes time to really kind of relax into it. But
Yeah, I heard from many people that they hated Brussels at the first time, and then they started loving it.
yeah,
Who comes in Brussels, stays in Brussels, or wants to come back to Brussels.
true.
Yeah.
So what about you, Kate?
I think for me it's the same. For me it was the city not friendly from the first sight. As Philip said at the beginning, it's not the city you fall in love from the first sight. But now I also feel like it's my home. I have family here.
Nice. Janet?
Yeah.
I would say first impression was really like cold, anonymous, and not so inviting. But now it's rather like cozy, cute. Maybe a bit too tiny on the long run, but let's see about that.
Yeah, so thank you all for joining us in this fruitful conversation, and I hope to see you again in the next ones. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Adam.
Voilà.
Do we have to repeat it?